All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for your patience as we got all of our technical difficulties fixed and ready to go. We're so excited for our next group. I'm going to pass it over to EPRI's Tiago to get us started. We have a great panel here, so make sure you stay engaged, use the chat and Q&A to ask any questions. Thank you, guys. Over to you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, good evening, depending on where you may be. It's a pleasure to be here. A pleasure to have everybody here, and looking forward to this discussion. What we're going to be talking about here today, and we have three great presenters to lead this discussion. We're going to be talking about asset management and how can AI be leveraged to help us with asset management. What are the challenges and more important, what are the opportunities that we see where we can leverage AI to help us manage our assets in the power industry a little bit better? Okay, so I don't want to take too much time away from the presenters. And so I'll introduce our first speaker. That will be Joyce Solomon. She's a researcher. She's a program manager in Southern Nuclear. Her role there is to research and implement innovative solutions to enhance productivity, reduce costs, and increase safety. She has, amongst her interests, you see online monitoring, predictive analytics, and remaining useful life. So very related to asset management. So I don't want to take any more time from her. I have the opportunity to work with her in other projects. I'm sure that you're going to enjoy her presentation. So Choice, go ahead and take it on.
Yes, as you can see, previous slide, please. As you can see, in our company in Southern Nuclear, we currently have three operating plants, our Farley, Hatch, and Vogel plant. Our data is actually so siloed, especially the plant computer data. Then the secondary data is almost segregated everywhere. Um, the secondary data is not shared at all. The system engineers at the sites, the component engineers, and our monitoring and diagnostic center have their own data set. So when we talk about AI and ML, it is always good for us to have a great framework, a quality data framework where the data is good and its quality to be used in any of our AI or ML project. If you can see the diagram on the right hand side, you can see that currently we have an establishment of the MSD Centre. We have SMEs there, and we're connected to our advanced pattern recognition software Prism. And we have plant data coming in through different data sources. And then we also have our ESOMs data, which is the operator rounds data that comes in. But all of this data is segregated, kept in different databases, different sources. They are not combined together. So our hope is to increase monitoring capabilities, but not to do operational decisions. What are we trying to do in the near future is what you can see in the outer layer of the circle. We are trying to bring in more data. We're trying to consolidate the data into one data historian. That's the OSI-PI that we have chose. Now, I just wanted to talk about some ongoing projects as part of our monitoring and diagnostic center. We have the wireless monitoring project that is going on right now. This provides additional monitoring capabilities like temperature, pressure, vibration, besides the points that we get today from plant computer. The next one is the thermal performance project that will bring in real-time analysis on thermal performance of each unit. Next is our system monitoring project, which we have gone ahead where we identified what information that is already being monitored by each of the site individually and what needs to be added into that monitoring activity, and we're going to try to bring that into the monitoring and diagnostic center. Next is the switchyard thermography project, which will provide monitoring of thermal hotspots of transformers and other switchyard equipment through infrared cameras. And of course, I talked about bringing all of that together into the data historian, which is the fleet-wide data historian, which is an enabler to bring all the data together into the MSD Center to be monitored. Not only the historian will provide a central repository, but it will also enable us to build and classify asset framework. That is to customize hierarchically based on system and components level. This will enable us to monitor real-time asset health. We also have one future project up on our sleeves, that is the analog gauge reader, which will provide additional points to monitor in assets that are not covered under the wireless monitoring project. And this will bring in more trend data that can help the operators in the operations and engineering department. Um, and here in this slides, you can see with such rich data that's coming in from all these projects, we do see opportunities around AI, that is to increase and maintain availability of all these assets and sustaining them. Of course, reducing operator burden in the future, where operators hopefully they don't have to do rounds, but they could sit in one location and monitor and watch for data that's coming in. Of course, finally reducing maintenance costs, right? Um, we are hoping to do prediction around asset and component health using our advanced pattern recognition system, that is to improve maintenance action, identify level of wear and degradation that in the future can help us reduce PM and do condition-based maintenance instead of doing time-based maintenance. Of course, with all of this in place, the most important element is predicting remaining useful life. That is with, of course, all this rich data in place, using AI to bring all of them together and also use vendor provided information or the manufacturer providing information to cleanly predict the remaining useful life of an asset. Of course, not to forget, this will increase monitoring and trending capabilities. As I mentioned before, reducing manual reviews of operator rounds. If you can see the box at the bottom, it exactly talks about what opportunity that's out there. That is, with the asset that we have, with the data that we're trying to combine and bring it together, we can predict the failure mode of it and finally the remaining useful life of this. So this is an area that we see AI can be used at great level. Next slide, please. Here is another one that we definitely think there's AI opportunities around machine learning, which we conducted the pilot in-house. This is around reducing resource time in classifying CAP, correction active program CRs manually daily. Like I mentioned, we conducted this automation pilot in 2020 using natural language programming. This is to train the machine learning model from historical CR information that we already have. And all our CAP, CR, and TE data comes from our system, which I think is a lot of people are familiar. That's the Maximal system. What we did was we took a small segment or data set of all the CRs that we have collected all these years, and we did predict for the priority of all the CRs. This was a very successful pilot. We saw 95% prediction rate success. But because this has been one of the AI ML project that has been getting a lot of interest from all the nuclear industry, EPRI has started working towards the CAP automation project. that Southern Nuclear has participated. We are integrating with EPRI, and we are also providing data to support this project. So all our findings that we have got through our pilot, we are trying to feed that information to EPRI so that we can get a successful tool that EPRI can provide to everyone. The data that we used from Maximo, we exported it to XML, and the tool automation that we created as part of our pilot that is being used today, it runs kind of once a day in the morning. We have another project that we are trying to use natural language programming concept, that is to do CR screening for MRUL. This is in a very beginning stage in Southern Nuclear, but we see great opportunity using this CAP automation pilots framework on trying to do CR screening for MRUL. One more project that we think that will bring a lot of attention or interest is using chatbot AI tool. We do have chatbot as part of Southern Company's strategy in technology. That is, what we're trying to do is trying to use this technology to advance search maximal using natural language programming as well, so that that chatbot can be used by our MSD Centre analysts, our system engineers, and our component engineers down at each of the site. This project is also at the very beginning stage of us trying to draw out the scope for this. Next slide, please. Here's the third use case that we think that there is opportunity around AI work, that is to increase the hot K effective predictability from one cycle to another in BWRs. SNC is currently engaged with a vendor to do AI ML moisture carryover predictive tool to increase fuel management analysis, to reduce elevated moisture carryover, and to reduce fuel costs and maintenance costs. Of course, this can reduce collective radiation exposure as well. If the hot K effective predictability is not predicted properly, the result can be two things: not loading enough fresh fuel, which can directly impact the power generation, or loading more fresh fuel than necessary, which can have direct cost impact. So we see a lot of potential in this AI tool that we're working with a vendor. The MCO predictive model has capability to predict MCO within for in cycle, that is during the cycle where the cycle is currently in progress, or able to predict MCO within for out of cycle, that is for reload or design cycles. Of course, in the future, operational decisions can be made to mitigate elevated MCO condition, therefore avoiding mid-cycle shutdown. The data that we currently have for this is kept by the fuel team, which we are providing to the vendor, and the tool that they will be providing to us will be on demand basis. That will be some sort of web tool that we can log in and access and do our prediction. So we're really looking forward for this opportunity around moisture carryover. There are more and more opportunities around AI that I at least foresee. We have been using UAV drones for inspection activities in our plant for the past few years. We have gathered lots of images and videos during these inspection. So we see opportunity using AI for pictures and video processing, just like it was shared during the keynote session today. We are currently working with EPRI on two AI projects around this. That is for IWL inspection and dry cask storage inspection, taking all the images and videos while doing the inspection to use AI models to process them to speed up reports. So we're definitely looking forward for these opportunities as well in the AI machine learning space. One of the things that I forgot to mention earlier was we are using OSI.EPRI as our central data historian, and one of part of our strategy was to, when we bring in all the data sources into this one location, we wanted to ensure we have pi tags standards so that all the pies are brought in, all the points are brought in from all different locations, but using one standard. We did take quite some time to do this data mapping, and recently we were introduced to the Pi OSI tags automation that EPRI has introduced to automate the Pi tagging. So we're waiting to hear on the first version to be the testers. This Pi tagging effort would be very, very helpful as we bring more and more data source into our Pi in the near future. So these are the few opportunities that we see around using AI and machine learning in Southern Nuclear's asset management area. With that, thank you so much. Back to you, Tiago.
Thanks, Joyce. I appreciate your presentation. Do we have any questions for Joyce, either on audio or I don't know if there's anything on chat that anybody wants to ask Joyce? We do have a few minutes here. I do, Joyce. I'll ask you. It's a two-in-one question here, and I'll probably ask this of all the presenters as well. When we think of asset management, and this is also setting up for the discussion we'll have on the breakout session tomorrow on this topic, but when you think of asset management and the leveraging AI for that, what is, in your opinion, what do you see as that one project or application that's more reachable and that we should go for in the near term? And what do you see also as, that shoot for the moon goal, something that perhaps we're not going to get there tomorrow, but as the long term, this is what this is where you'd like to see the plant at?
Right. I think in terms of near future, I think the CAP automation project has a lot of potential. That's just because the data is readily available in most utilities. At least Southern Nuclear has our data very much available. That is to predict either the priority or the departments or the PONC codes and things like that. So that project definitely has great potential for quick success. It looks like it's a low hanging fruit for sure. And that is, I think, strongly something we can go ahead and pursue. I think for long terms, something that would be nice to have, great to have in the future is something around, of course, predicting remaining useful life of an asset. That is not so easy to be done. I've been part of 2 research facilities recently for 3 years, collaborating with them, trying to use deep data analytics to predict the remaining useful life. But the remaining useful life does have all kind of different variables that needs to be fed into it for us to make a good prediction to identify whether the asset is going to work as long as it can, or in the next 3 days it's going to die. So that is something really huge that that needs to be worked on a little longer with good data and quality data, I believe, and more data coming from different parts of the asset, not just temperature, pressure, vibration kind of data, but also from data like from CRs, TEs, and CAP, and PM, and work orders that can be combined together to make that true prediction. So that's my thought, Tiago.
We do have a few questions coming up on chat here. I see. How big is the data that you have collected? Is it in petabytes or terabytes?
It's in petabytes right now. We're still collecting whatever that I've mentioned as part of my, I think, the first slide. We're still at the beginning stages of those projects. So as we continue and finish up that project in the next 2 years, we will see more and more data housed in the data historian.
All right. How are you collecting the video streams from your drones?
So at this point, we, of course, we once we do our inspection, we always have a memory card that we take out from the drone and download those pictures. So we keep that pictures in a database, and that database is fed into EPRI after we sign all our non-disclosure agreement for the thermal imaging AI predictive project, as well as the IWL automation project that we're part of.
All right. Two more questions here. We can perhaps get to them. If you were to add a new sensor to one type of equipment, what would it be and what costs are currently associated with not having that data?
Um, I think right now all the sensors that we are putting in are sensors that is for non-safety. So we have lots of data that's going to come in for non-safety equipment. Of course, hoping that in the future, as we mature more and more as a company and as an industry, then we'll look into, safety-related equipments that we probably can at some point put the sensors on. And I think since we're in the beginning of our strategy, data strategy, we're not seeing the pain of not having this safety equipment data coming in through our data historian yet. So probably as we mature along in this project, then we will see a need to bring that in if necessary and if applicable.
All right, we'll do one more question here, then for time we'll move on. But relative to asset management, do you see the integration between AI or RPA and advanced analytics? Does Maximo have data analytics application?
Um, I guess with the Maximo that we have today, we don't have, well, we have historical reporting capabilities. We don't have deep data analytics, but we have been approached by IBM with their new Watson predictive analytics software that can integrate with Maximo to bring all this deep data analytics, predictive, and even pattern recognition at the end.
All right, thank you, Joyce. We have about 40 minutes left. We started a little bit late, so gonna go over a little bit to make sure we have times for all the speakers and the questions. I will move us on ahead now to our next speaker. In the interest of time, thank you, Joyce. I know there's more questions here. I would, and I'll say this again at the end. We have the breakout session tomorrow on this very topic. So I'd encourage everybody to join there, where we're going to have more times for questions and discussion. So if we can bring the slides up for our next speaker, and I'll introduce her. So now we're going to have Naz Shabandi, working with OPG, over 13 years of experience in data science and advanced analytics. She boasts having, working with OPG and their MSD Centre over 2,000 APR models. So we'll be definitely we'll be looking forward to hearing from her. So Naz, please go ahead.
Here, and it's very exciting that we have lots of activities in common across the industry, and it's indeed in our benefit to somehow having some synergistic efforts to get more and more from the AI implementation within this industry. You're going to notice lots of projects that I'm going to talk about are similar to what Joyce just mentioned, and well, that's one of the reasons it's good to have EPRI in place to somehow combine all these efforts. All right, just trying to test my clicker. Hopefully it works. Yeah, okay. So we're very new. MSD Centre in OPG started operation late 2017. It's hardly 4 years old. And since then, we are very proud of achievements that we have, and we've grown considerably. It's all started as part of the fleet monitoring initiative undertaken by OPG. And the purpose was to leverage advances in equipment condition monitoring with 4 main objectives. The first one that was kind of, the most accessible one for us, because we did have available data in hand through Pi Historian, was to automate anomaly detection in process data. And through that automated monitoring, we could identify degradation in system performance and equipment reliability. The second was to reduce the likelihood of unexpected and catastrophic equipment failures through this early identification and the online monitoring that we had in place. Obviously, the next that comes is to utilize this automation of condition monitoring to optimize maintenance and engineering work programs in place. All in all, kind of to just optimize what we have in hand. The ultimate application was to implement machine learning techniques to determine the health and remaining useful life of key equipment, which is invaluable input for asset management and planning, of course. Next, please. For some reason, my clicker does not work. Thank you so much. OPG MSD Centre was, sorry. So what we have here, the main focus of MSD Centre these days is condition-based maintenance, and the strategies of condition-based maintenance that we have. Adapt maintenance planning through the integration of online monitoring of assets. The accuracy and cost effectiveness of these strategies can be, of course, improved by integrating prognostic and diagnostic capabilities into the center. But that's not that easy. Nothing is perfect, including the station and instrumentation that we have in place. So enhancing diagnostic modeling and prognostic predictive capabilities are the natural next phases that comes for every MSD center, which is targeting the station modernization. And in order to develop such prognostic capabilities, OPG has performed a detailed analysis of critical station assets to identify monitoring gaps and failure mode vulnerabilities that we have not really covered with current instrumentation. This effort includes stakeholders discussions, soliciting feedback from subject matter experts, maintenance history reviews, and operation maintenance and administration cost assessment. And led us to identify the instrumentation gaps that we have on key equipment and the installation of new sensors to fill in that gap. The scope of the analysis included potential diagnostic and prognostic capabilities, as well as enhancing the traditional condition-based maintenance that we have. Next, please. Currently, developed models in MSD Centre are mainly advanced pattern recognition, APR-based models. Joyce mentioned that it's probably the most favorite type of machine learning used across the industry. But what it does is actually look at the historical data and try to identify the normal trend of the system and equipment operation, and just look at the real-time data and feed in the real-time data within the normal signature of the equipment and system, and calculate any kind of deviation that we have. The benefit of using advanced pattern recognition modeling is that it's provides considerably higher level of sensitivity compared to what we have in control systems in place. So when we're talking about advanced pattern recognition system, we don't expect to have the same alerting system that what we have in control room. The whole purpose is not to kind of replacing control rooms, other than having an earlier heads up to optimize maintenance and easier planning, and of course avoiding the failures. Real-time automated monitoring of APR models enable MSD Centre to identify anomalies, some of which are the traces of gradual degradation. We have a different verification technique to make sure that what goes from the center is an actual alert. That would be through the review of information packages that we receive from station, any kind of record of the ongoing work or testing on that equipment and system. So we know that station is not already aware of what's going on and it's not kind of false positive. That would also help us to improve our models. So if there's something going on and it's a normal situation, normal condition actually, and our model did not capture it, obviously we need to add that gap in training to the model to make sure that model addresses the normal operational profile properly. So far, as mentioned before, we have more than 2,000 models developed and deployed in the center, either APR based as the main AI technique that we use in the center, and some are specifically developed to optimize maintenance through extending preventive maintenance program on monitored equipment. APR models are focused on high-value equipment such as bearings, stators, transformers, boilers, condensers, steam and water systems, heat transports, heat exchanger pumps, specifically fans and other kinds of pumps, turbines, and all in all, we have hydroelectric units, thermal and nuclear that we'll look at. Diagnostic and prognostic models are on these key equipments that we have APR models for are definitely great additions to fleet online monitoring program. Next, please. All right, but APR monitoring is not the only type of monitoring that we're doing in monitoring and diagnostic center. To meet the objectives that I've mentioned before, we have 3 more actually techniques of monitoring that we've added to the center. The first is equipment condition monitoring using a set of analytical techniques that we talked about, advanced pattern recognition. And that's kind of, as I said, the first one that we could implement because we had the data available, and the software that we had, we use actually Prism Aviva Advanced Analytic, as capable of just reading data from Pi, getting connected to Pi, and a pretty straightforward connection to have the data modeled sooner. The next is thermal performance and cycle isolation monitoring that we have in place. MSD Centre utilizes famous software, which is continuously analyzing the turbine cycle of our nuclear units against the first principle model to identify potential generation losses due to component degradation and or any kind of high energy steam bypassing the turbine. The next monitoring technique that we are using is instrumentation calibration monitoring that I briefly talked about. MSD has developed a series of models to identify drift in triplicate instrumentation to support the condition-based maintenance CBM program that we have in place, with the benefit of reducing unnecessary maintenance and the unavailability of safety critical process information. We hear that a lot from people who are involved with this on a more technical basis, that you better not to touch the instrument if you don't have to. So that's actually a very good way of monitoring, keep track of any kind of drift without touching the instrumentation if it's not needed. And also we had situations that that could actually reduces the dose uptake considerably. And the last is kind of ad hoc requests that we receive for adverse condition monitoring. Whenever something comes right now, MSD Centre has the sponsorship that it needed from station, and the communication paths are wide open, kind of two-way. So whenever something comes up and station needs more analysis, MSD Centre is providing the analysis needed for that situation, kind of customize dashboard and more frequent monitoring that is not really easy for station in a traditional way that they are looking at the process data. On top of these monitoring programs, MSD Centre is also working on developing advanced analytic tools to provide prognostic modeling for key equipment. As I said, that's where actually ended up being for most of the monitoring and diagnostic centers across the industry. And of course, there are some challenges along the way. Next, please. So that's actually good to mention what this modeling, either APR, thermal performance, or instrumentation calibration has provided for MSD Centre. As I said, we've started late 2017. We've spent some time just kind of collecting data that we have, scoping the models that are going to be developed, kind of prioritizing it, structuring the models, deploying them. It took a considerable amount of time, but after deployment so far, MSD Centre has provided over $2.7 million in avoided costs and direct benefits since, I would say, early 2018. With some of the saving coming from the multiple case studies in loop calibration, actually, the instrumentation modeling that we have. So more information in MSD Centre model scopes and more instrumentation that are covered within the modeling capabilities of MSD Centre, the more benefits we expect for MSD Centre to provide. But going to what the challenges really of MSD centers are, could you please move to the next slide? So that's actually where we can help each other industry-wide. Focusing on diagnostic and prognostic model, the first thing that could be very challenging, and we've been actually trying to somehow overcome this issue, is the industry-wide shortage of curated data. Labeled data, clean data, not only limited to the assets that we have within OPG, because obviously that's not enough. Industry-wide is a big help to make sure that we can actually develop a diagnostic model and we can validate it properly, and we can actually customize it to specific station need. And that's what is missing. There are a lot of repositories for, let's say, FMEAs. We have good repository within EPRI actually for that as well. But it's not still rich enough, and that would be a very good group effort to work on that. I believe that we're going to talk about that part in another session too, so just leave it there. So I touched the FMEA, the failure mode analysis that we have available. Systems are constantly changing, and what we need really is a more flexible model capturing all of the factors that can somehow impact the failure modes, and how the curves are changing, how we're feeding the data within the current failure modes, and that would be a big help to somehow, optimize the accuracy of the diagnostic models we have. Prognostic models comes next, and validation actually is way more important, because the accuracy, unless the accuracy is within the acceptable range, asset management program cannot really take into account what the output of those prognostic models are. And all in all, when it comes to the asset management programs, we need to have a little bit of flexibility in the defined programs within the asset management to make sure that the insight that is provided by diagnostic and prognostic models are practical. Actually, they can be used, they are valuable, but they should be somehow fit in the programs that we have available for asset management, or we need to maybe restructure what we have for asset management to make it possible for these additions. And with kind of more specifically, what we are looking at in OPG is the transformer models. We have dissolved gas analysis instrumentation for our transformers in place now. And what we're looking at is to somehow trying to put all this data together to come up with a remaining useful life model for these transformers, looking at the DGA data. We have first principle models, like let's say we have dual transformer, the dual triangle models, something like that. But we have more factors than just what we are including there. So something more advanced would be providing more accuracy for what we need. The other application of those prognostic diagnostic model, considering the instrumentation we have in place, would be the application of electrical signature analysis data to provide the accurate predictions of remaining useful life, or any kind of prognostic model that can help us. Specifically, we're looking at the pumps, the primary heat transport pumps that are of interest for us, obviously key equipments, and we have the instrumentation in place. So either collaboration within the industry, or some good initial model that we can go ahead with and start testing would be very valuable for OPGs these days. And with that, I'm just gonna wrap it up here, and would love to hear questions. Back to you, Tiago.
Thank you, Nas. Thank you very much. So for the audience, you can be typing in questions in the chat, and we'll be relaying them here to Nas. While you do that and come up with your awesome questions, Nas, I'll start with the same question that I asked Joyce. What is that one application where you see, in the near term that we should be going after that can probably be solved more quickly? And what is that shoot for the moon goal that you see in using AI that we're not going to get now, but that's where you'd like to see the plant at?
So I will go back at the transformer models that we have actually. The DGA modeling being there for a while, but now that we have kind of larger scope of the data available to us, the accuracy of model can also improve. So far, most of the models were more like first principle models based on the failure modes that we have, but now we have more inputs to the model. The multidimensional model could be in place. There are some limitations on it, as I said, but that would be a very good next step for us. We are also looking at what we can do in-house with the first step, that was the installation of new sensors, is completed now for our Darlington station.
Okay. I see we do have some questions coming here. One here is, are these in-house built models made fundamentally with R or Python, or based on some platform like TensorFlow or from some other source?
What we have right now is actually more similar to Python than anything else. We also have some C# coding. Not really R. We don't have anything going in R, and we just found that Python is more kind of compatible and easier to convert to other platforms if needed. So that's what we have in place. We are also running a pilot with Seek. They are the coding that they have ready interfaces. It's very user friendly, and that's what we are using on site.
Okay. Next question here, and then after this one, we'll move on to Kevin. Do you expect that OPG can be successful in prognostics or remaining useful life modeling with purely data-driven approaches, or do you see that as requiring physics-basic models?
I don't actually see why we need to differentiate between these two. Some of the data-driven are actually looking at physics models in the first place, and the base of the models that we have in mind is a kind of combination, a hybrid model, taking into account both the concepts that we learn from physics-based models as well as what we have in data-driven models. And the benefit of combining these two would be definitely kind of better fit to the data that we have and higher accuracy of the prediction. So it's obviously it's not a completed product yet. We don't have a ready answer for that, but so far the purpose is to having them both combined.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Naz. I think we still may have a few questions that you can answer in chat. For time, we're going to move on here for Kevin. If we have time after Kevin's presentation, we'll do a little bit more of Q&A, and we always have the session tomorrow where we're going to continue this conversation. So if we can pull up the slides, we're going to move on to Kevin Thompson. I was working for 15 years of experience at Duke Energy. His manager at their Asset Information Intelligence. And he'll be sharing here with his experience with us. So, Kevin, please. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you. So, some of the information that you've heard from the previous presenters, I may talk to as well, or you might hear some of the same themes as you heard before. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so some of our challenges and opportunities that we have with artificial intelligence and machine learning. So first off, let me back up. I'm going to focus on the efforts that we are doing in transmission within Duke Energy. There are various other machine learning, artificial intelligence efforts throughout our organization, but I'll focus on what we're doing on the transmission side. Similar to what Joyce had mentioned in her presentation, our challenges, we've got very disparate systems of all kinds of data. They're all independent of one another. They don't really talk to one another. Duke Energy is comprised of 5 different companies acquired throughout time. Those databases, so even though we may have Aspen, we all use our Aspen database, we have 4 different instances of Aspen. So, we've never consolidated those as well. So it gets more disparate even within the applications that we do have. But a lot of different applications, a lot of different systems. They don't talk to each other. And then in terms of our asset data itself and its nameplate data, first 100 years of existence, we really didn't treat data as information. We treated it more as nice to have. So we never focused on collecting an appropriate level of data. We collected whatever was sent to us and we moved on. If I think back to our maintenance programs 10 years ago, we would have the same maintenance on every transformer, and that's what we did. Over the last 10 years, we've evolved through O&M capital challenges, through just the desire to be a little bit more precise. We've evolved into a place where our maintenance schedules have to be different based on the different levels of transformers that we may have, for example. Because of that, we've started to treat that data a little bit more like information. So we've started to get better at collecting that data, but we still have 100 years worth of data that we really didn't treat well over that period of time. Testing of data. We may have hundreds of thousands of test records. So at Duke Energy, we have 7,500 transformers. We have 18,000 breakers. That's a lot of test data to go through on 40, 50, 60-year-old pieces of equipment. So just having to dig through all of that data is very challenging. One of the other things that we discovered along this journey as well, a lot of our supporting data we had on spreadsheets, and everybody held it different regionally. And so a good example of that was failure data. Everybody had their own spreadsheet within the region, and so whenever there was a question about how many failures have we had over time, you had to know the right person in the right region to contact to get you that information. We're solving that through a simple access database where everybody stores their failure information, but then it's consistent, and we have it where anybody in the organization can answer that question. So those are some of our challenges that are not different than any other utility organization. Let me try to get to the next slide here. Okay, so why is it a problem? And again, I think this is probably fairly common for all of us. We must meet our financial targets as well as deliver on high reliability to our customers. They're kind of acting in opposite directions. In order to have the highest reliability, you've got to spend money, you've got to replace equipment, you've got to maintain equipment. We also have financial targets which prohibit the ability to just replace everything or just maintain everything. And so because of that, we have to find a balance where we can meet our financial targets, but we can also deliver the highest reliability possible to our customers in doing so. Limited resources to evaluating testing data. So we don't have an army of resources to evaluate all of this testing data. We have a handful of folks. Those are our normal experts on the equipment, but they've got to have a platform delivered to them where they can spend their time digesting, evaluating, and making decisions, not digging into various and sundry different applications in order to put them to a spreadsheet to come to an evaluation. So that's another large challenge that's in front of us, and why we have come up with this solution. And then, one of the other pieces I talked about a little bit ago was talking about our data and how we have not treated it right over the years. We need to right size the data so that it fits our resources. We understand that we cannot ask for the moon and the stars and say that we need all data all the time. It just is not feasible to capture nor to digest. And so we really have got to do a solid job on determining what information do we need in order to make decisions, and then we really got to go after and get that information. If we find it important in order to make decisions, we've got to do what we need to do to maintain that data and also capture it for our historical assets. So in terms of our use cases that we are using this solution for, we're using it to prioritize capital replacements and repair work. As I mentioned, we have limited funding. We can't just replace everything time-based. We must do it based off of its condition. The same as repair. Just because something is broken, that we might not be able to repair everything that's broken. So we've got to have a system that tells us when something is broken and when it is impacting the health of that asset. And when fixing that corrective or that repair will improve or stabilize the health of that asset. We need to support condition-based maintenance proposals. I mentioned in the past, we would attach the same maintenance on every transformer. We're in a time now where we do not have that funding capability or flexibility. So we've got to figure out and have a system that will allow us to do condition-based maintenance. So then we can do more maintenance, but maybe it's on less assets. But we're doing one of our key sayings in the development of this is this solution will allow us to do the right maintenance at the right time on the right equipment. And that's really what we're looking to do with this solution. We're looking to streamline our data collection requirements. I mentioned before, it sure would be nice if we just collected everything about everything, but we can't do that. We've got to focus on what we want to collect and make sure that we're collecting that information as accurately as we can. We need a one-stop shop for asset evaluation and information. We need it so that our experts don't have to go to 5 and 6 different applications, compile the data into a spreadsheet, and then come up with an evaluation. We've got to be able to have a solution that allows us to evaluate not just a specific transformer or a breaker, but the entire fleet within minutes, as opposed to our previous methods. It may take a couple of days to evaluate a transformer with all the different disparate systems. And then finally, we need this to drive our technology investments. If done right, this will prove that we need to accelerate other technologies, whether it be electromechanical relays, whether it be condition-based maintenance equipment, more DGA monitors, more, whatever technology it is, this solution will help show the benefit to that and also drive the priority for the business on what to invest in. One of the other use cases I did not mention on that previous slide was also our sparing strategies. So one of the use cases there, how we have, I mentioned over 100 years of existence with Duke Energy. Needless to say, we've got a lot of different variations of transformers and breakers out there. We need a solid way to evaluate what our proper sparing should be for each one of those classes of assets. That will help synergize our inventory, help us reduce our inventory levels, but also help us to be able to prepare when we may have failures or we may need emergent replacements. And so that's a large investment as well in inventory that we're looking for this solution to deliver for us. So, where can others help in this mission? This is the unique thing about this is we're all on the same journey, and we all require the same thing. We all require data, and common to most of us, we all don't have enough data. Machine learning, artificial intelligence takes a lot of data, and it takes a lot of consistent, accurate data. You can have a lot of data, but if it's all over the board, it's as valuable as no data at all. And so the only way that we will get there is by sharing data, sharing our stories, sharing our information, and learning from each other, and helping to build artificial intelligence and machine learning to where it's of value. I think you heard in the previous presentation about hybrid hybrid model, where it's taking analytics plus machine learning, artificial intelligence. We've been on this journey for quite some time. We've actually implemented a solution for transformers, and that's been running for a little over a year now. I can tell you absolutely we agree with that standpoint, that the hybrid learning is really the only way that, in our opinion, we feel like we can move forward at this point in time. Eventually, with more consistent, stable data, we might get to an environment where we're able to rely on artificial intelligence, machine learning. But right now, we still are heavily leveraged on our engineering analytics, and then we also take into account the machine learning and artificial intelligence. But by no means are we prepared to just use machine learning, just because of the volume of data that it requires for it to work properly. I'm trying to get back to the previous slide. I think I hit. Here we go. So, sharing of failure reporting data to improve the precision of artificial intelligence. I mentioned some of the things that we're doing. We've created a access database that records our failures. We don't have enough failures in order for proper machine learning, so we need to share that information. What we're leaning on is the NATF failure coding process. That was established several years ago for the entire utility industry. But if we can get more utilities to start using that failure coding, that's a consistent way to evaluate asset failures. And then that information can be shared across utilities, regardless of a lot of other things. And it flattens that data out, so we're all talking the same thing, and that would help get us to a larger ability to rely on machine learning. And then, as I mentioned, the just sharing lessons learned in different use cases. As we all evolve through this, we've got to get to an environment where we have the ability to share different use cases, just like this forum. This forum is great to be able to just share, hey, we used our solution in this way. It's helped us get XYZ evaluation. We've, for Duke Energy, we've started to move down the realm of condition-based repair work, not just condition-based maintenance, but we've also got condition-based repair work. So we've gotten through analytics, a couple of different examples of how we can use condition-based repair work to do stuff. And so just sharing that with other utilities and across the platforms will help us all grow and expand and really get this thing moving forward. So with that kind of ends my presentation, and I'll turn it back to you, Thiago.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. We have about 1 minute left in our session here, so unfortunately we're not going to have time for questions for Kevin. But I want to do two things. First, I want to thank each of our three presenters, Choice, Naz, and Kevin. Thank you so much for your time and sharing. And I want to remind everybody that we do have a session tomorrow at 3 o'clock to continue this discussion. And I think some of the points that Kevin just made, the discussion tomorrow is we want to talk about what are the key issues that we need to solve and what are the areas for collaboration. How do we solve them together? You just heard similar things in the three presentations, and Kevin just finished with a great point that we can't do this alone. Nobody has the data on their own. We need to collaborate and do these things together. So I really look forward to have everybody in the discussion tomorrow. Again, thank you to the presenters, and hope to see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. That was a great discussion. All right, so we are at 2:41 Eastern time. We're going to take about a 19-minute break here. We want to make sure that we end the day on time, so we'll see you guys back in about 19 minutes. We will update the screen appropriately so you know when to come back. Again, feel free to grab a cup of coffee, answer some emails, but we will see you back here for our very last session at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you guys very much.